welcome to Chuck's Diecast Car and Model Reviews. Today we are taking a look at, well, you may not realize this, but this is the last Ferrari model to win at Le Mans. This is the Ferrari 250 LM. This car actually won Le Mans in 1965. And this is, if you watch the show Ford versus Ferrari, the model of Ferrari that beat the Ford GT40 on Ford's first time out at Le Mans. Now, this particular livery of this car is actually not a car that raced at Le Mans. This is the car that raced and won at the 12 Hours of Sebring. So it does have its own race history. It's known as the Xerox Special, as you can see here. And the drivers were Walt Hansen and somebody you probably know a little bit better than Walt, but Mark Donohue, who was one of the great racers, great American racers, actually. From the, I guess you'd say the mid-60s until his death in the early 70s. Now the 250 LM itself was sort of, when it was originally conceived, they attempted to get around the rules in this car. And what they were trying to say was, well, this is a 250 LM. It is a modification of the Ferrari 250 GTO. I mean, the only difference is that we took the engine and moved it from the front into the middle. You know, that doesn't make it a different car at all. We should be able to homologate this car. I mean, we even have sort of the same front end. You know, you'll see here that there's definitely a family resemblance between the front of the GTO and the 250 LM. And also, the second generation Ferrari GTO has a cockpit or a greenhouse or whatever you want to call it, quite similar to this on the 250 LM. Of course, the governing body looked at this car and said, no, this is not a Ferrari GTO. This is not a road production car. You're going to have to race it in the prototype class. So they raced it in the prototype class, and well, they still won. Interesting thing about this car is, if you are aware of your Ferrari nomenclature back then, 250 is basically the term used for Ferrari cars that were of 3-liter displacement and V12s, because each cylinder was 250 cc's, and therefore it had a 3-liter engine. However, because Ferrari was trying to get around the rules, they called it the 250 LM, but it actually, by all accounts, it should not be the 250 LM. It should be the 275 LM, because this did not have a 3-liter engine. It had a 3.3-liter engine. Yet another way Ferrari was trying to get around things, but that's the way Enzo was back in the day. You know, he'd have a hissy fit, you know, when Carroll Shelby showed up with the Shelby Cobra Daytonas at the race and refused to race in Italy, so then they would not allow the Cobra Daytonas to race and all this sort of stuff. So Enzo, while being highly competitive, was also a bit of a cheat and also a big baby. So, but anyway, let's get back to the car itself here. Now, this model is made as you can see, by Bburago. You can see it is the 250 LM 1965 and is in 1/18 scale. Nice detailing underneath, by the way. If you'll notice, all the tubing for the chassis, which is how they used to make cars back then, is actually quite good. And also the underside does have good detailing for the engine, even though it's all chromed. And you can see the dual wishbone front suspension there too. Again, this is a pretty good model, as you can see, just starting with the bottom. When you take a look at the side here, you can see a good job on the metallic blue paint. Decals look very good as well. And you can see here the I can't even make it out on here, the Mecum Racing Team on the badging, and there's a Texas flag and all that sort of stuff on there. The square PT stands for prototype, which is the class it raced in at Sebring. And taking a look at the front, again, a pretty nice detailing here, and unusually for a model of this age and price point, that's actually real plastic grille in the front as opposed to textured plastic, so that's pretty good. Also, you will see here that the front trunk opens here, and of course there is no storage for anything, but you can see what looks to be two intakes for cockpit ventilation, as well as I guess that would be either an oil tank or some sort of radiator overflow tank there as well. So nice of them to include that in this model as well. I do like the striping on this. It's really a unique look, I mean, with American colors on this car. I've seen at least a couple or three of these 250 LMs in person, one of them being yellow, the others being red. So it's interesting to see them in the blue and American colors there. Taking a look at the back here, you will see again and more mesh there, so that's nice. The quad exhaust, again that Texas Racing Team badging, and then the two color rear lights there, which is very nice as well. They also included, if you can see here, hold down straps for the rear engine covers. So let's go ahead and move those and open up the back end. You'll see here that there is a little hold pin for holding up the engine, but I think I'll hold it open a little bit more so you can see a little bit more detail. The engine, as you can see, is just all silver, so that is certainly incorrect, but at least the detail is there in terms of the the Ferrari badging on the valve covers and the even the valve cover bolts and the velocity stacks, the two distributors and so on and so forth, and they do have the regulation spare tire with the hold down straps there as well, and you can also see a little bit more of the chassis tubing there too. So good job by Bburago for doing that, although it would have been nice if they had painted the engine, but again, that's asking a lot at this price point. So let's go ahead and look at the interior here. nice job in here. Interesting to see that they have some quilting on the inside, but you can see the instrumentation. You can see the steering wheel there. Nice job on that, as well as the dash. So good job there. And we'll look at it from the other side there also. Notice that this thing is missing seat belts, which I'm sure this would have had when they were racing back in the day. Now just to let you know, this is sort of going to be the first of a series of 4 videos I'm going to show in a row of Ferrari LeMans race car models that I have. So I hope you enjoy that series of videos. Also, I should mention to you that I bought this model at a very interesting place. And it's a place that I recommend to you highly if you haven't heard of it, and if you happen to be traveling through Germany or live in Germany. And that is it's called the Technik Museum Sinsheim. I was there in 2001, and the reason why I even went to this museum is I heard about it by reading an article in a car magazine about this place. Otherwise, I would never even known this place existed. But this place is amazing, okay? I mean, it is full of just the most amazing stuff you'll ever see. It's like a madman's collection of transportation. They have the Russian SST on the roof. They have a Concorde jet on the roof. They have a collection of World War II military vehicles inside, including, like Tiger tanks and Panther tanks and Messerschmitts and all this sort of stuff. They have a collection of tractors, bizarre one-cylinder 2-liter tractors in there, and they have the most fantastic collection of sports and race cars that you'll probably ever see, okay? Now I'm just going to go ahead and show you this. This is a book that I got when I was there. This just gives you some examples of what you can see at this museum. I mean, here's T-34, there's a Panther, Heinkel, here's some of the planes that they have here, trains, huge collection of motorcycles. But the cool thing here is, look at this. Here's what they have just in Formula One cars. Williams FW11 by Nelson Piquet. Zach Speed. Here's Benetton Ford, which is one of my favorite Formula One cars. Here's a McLaren MP4 from Ayrton Senna, Michael Schumacher, Benetton. Here's a Old West McLaren Mercedes from the late 90s, Sauber Mercedes. Here's a Jordan. There's another Sauber. And then when you take a look at what supercars they have here, let's see if I can find the supercars here. Here's Audi Quattro, F40, Jaguar D-Type, Ferrari GTO, Ferrari 250 GT, Aston Martin, Countach, Miura. This is just a small example of what's at this museum. So if you get a chance to go to this museum, definitely hit it, okay? Meanwhile, that is all I have on this car here. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if so, please go ahead and like and subscribe.